This is Jerry Saltz. I'm the senior art critic for New York Magazine.
It's so
and
crazy.
What I'm in shock about with both of you is how on earth had you ever heard of me, an art critic? Because I don't know your two worlds.
Sure.
And I love it from afar, but nobody cares about art critics. So how the hell have you heard of me?
Well, you go. Let's.
Well, I'd seen on Instagram. I've seen some of your things on Instagram, some of your videos and things. We also we wanted to broaden the people that we had on because sometimes it gets too into we're just talking comedy stuff, and that can get pretty boring.
I don't know if I'd use that word.
Well, maybe not for you, but for me, it gets pretty boring.
But I knew you from online. I knew you from Twitter. You're a social media star in your own right.
But comedy, it seems to me, particularly your field, is kind of like the avant-garde right now. Although I would be honest to say that frankly, I will only listen to female comedians right now.
Really?
I'm sorry.
Russell actually takes the opposite approach today.
I think that men, we already know what we think. We think of three things and three things only. If you're a straight male, you think of sex. You think of boring things like traffic patterns, and then all day long you waste because men don't have an inner life at all because we don't have bodies. We've never been forced to look to our left or right when opening an apartment door, like every woman has. So we'll think of abstract things like, is there time travel? So I'm only interested in short to hear from the 51% we've never heard from in the history of the world, and to hear women's secret lives. Men have no secrets, and it's just bro and terrible. I hate us.
Well, for those of you who haven't turned off the podcast already based on that assessment of men sharing their inner lives, my name is Gianmarco Soresi. Welcome to The Downside. I'm here with my co-host, Russell Daniels.
Hi.
We're here with Jerry Saltz. I'll tell you the other reason we know about you is our producer, Paige Chica, works at, let me just pull up the exact gallery she works at, which I believe you have taken to task, perhaps.
Oh no!
But you also,
but she likes you,
David Zwerner.
Zwerner. Oh, I was just communing with her on DM, and I actually just wrote her today saying, "Do I know you? I feel like I know you." She works at David Zwerner, one of the mega gallery Death Stars that have operations in as many as 22 cities. But I have to say that I've never missed a show in a mega gallery. And David Zwerner may have won the mega wars between them all for now. But your listeners may not even care about what I'm saying.
No, well, first I do want to ask real quick. What do you know? List everything you know about like contemporary art. I'll go first. Banksy, the banana taped to the wall, and I just saw the thing about the ATM where you put in your card and it shows your bank statement. What do you know?
Two of those three things. The second one, I don't know what that is.
That's it.
Yeah, well, I feel deep shame around
shame.
Not deep.
You can't sleep at night. You're like, I don't know any other contemporary artists other than Banksy.
Like moderate. Well, I feel right now. I feel more shame around you that I don't know much about it. It's not something that's in my world. Or
that's Russell. I feel deep cynicism about all art, including my own. But I see that ATM thing, and I think I have mixed feelings.
Well, we all have mixed feelings about everything. When you look at a Rembrandt, you will often quietly think to yourself, it's kind of brown. It's very brown. I'm looking up the naughty bits in other paintings or my reflections in this. So being of two minds is a very human thing. I have no degrees. I never went to school. People that have heard me, unfortunately, have heard me say this a lot and listened to this podcast at 2 times the speed because I'm a slow talker with a terrible Midwest accent. I sound like a duck. But I would say I was a long-distance truck driver until I was 40 and had not started to write and taught myself to write while I was a long-distance truck driver.
That must have been dangerous.
It wasn't. I was.
You parked before you did the.
I thought I was cool. I've been on every highway in this country. Every one. I've seen.
What's your favorite?
They are all the exact fucking same.
They are.
Because I learned fuck nothing. I'm sure other people learn a life and a journey and a path. Well, I looked 100 yards to left and right, saw nothing, hated everyone, thought the world owed me a living, was envious of everything and everybody I saw, thinking, how come I don't have money? How come I don't know how to schmooze? Why are my ankles so bad? Why does everybody get what I want? And finally, by the time I was 40, I thought, nothing on this earth could make me more miserable than how I feel right now. I loved art. I had started as an artist, and I quit making art for the same reason both of you and all of your listeners will have to confront every night at 3:15, which is, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't have anything new to say. Other people have done this. You're just faking everyone out. You're not cool. You didn't go to the right schools. You have bad hair. You're too thin. You're too fat. You're not this. You're
you
not
gestured perfectly for that, just
Yeah.
so you know.
I looked at both of them, and I want to be a role model for people of what not to do, because I listened to those demons. And those demons forced me into painful exile.
And I've heard a lot of interviews with you. You love the word demons, and I'm wondering, but where did you?
Okay.
I feel like demons would be like someone with a real Catholic upbringing to talk about demons.
Well, I'm a Jew, but in any event, I would say let's change the word to the mean person that lives in your mouth.
But you like personify. Do you see it?
The reason I see it as demons, I think it's a good one-word descriptor, is because it's part of a cosmic force. It's a universal group mind known. That means every person I say it to knows the icky dark feeling of saying icky dark things to yourself and beginning to believe them. Do you have a better word? I'd love to use
No, I love
one.
demons. It's more just interesting of like, it's more about the way you identify it as like something separate from yourself.
Yes. That's what I meant by a cosmic force that you can't program out of you. I'm 71, both of you, and I this morning procrastinated. I, too, hated my work. I, too, wanted to call in and go, I can't talk to Jerry Saltz. I can't talk to these people. I don't know what I'm doing. I need to quit. But because we are poor, did not win the lottery, we are damned to never leave work life.
Yeah.
I have no way out. You don't retire from art, you see. The last thing I do is I'll be in my office dying, trying to correct a sentence, delete it, try it again, make it work.
Would you rather die there or looking at a piece of art? Which of those two?
That's really a great question. I guess I should be a little ashamed to say I'd rather die trying to fathom and write about it and put one language into another language and be writing. I'd rather be dying at my desk.
Hopefully it's not like one of those bananas duct taped to the wall bits.
Well, I want to tell you about the banana stuck to the wall. Could you pronounce your name again?
Gianmarco.
Gianmarco is describing a work of art from 2017 or 18, I'm not sure, that the very well-known artist Maurizio Catalan did at the Miami Art Basel, this sort of tent city where billionaires, trillionaires, poor people like you, the art world goes to touch antenna. And I say this all the time, even you losers should be able to make money. I want that. That's the only way I can see who you are.
Yeah.
Everybody goes there. It's a system like America that no one likes, but we don't have a better one. And it filters enough money to enough good, bad, and very bad people that really mediocre people like me can stay in a job. At this art fair, Maurizio Catalan took a real banana, gaffer taped it to a wall, and signed the tape. It was sold for $125,000. And this is where Gianmarco died, because he became cynical.
Yeah.
If you are cynical, listeners, a part of you is dying.
That's the theme of this whole podcast.
Cynical, I block cynics, okay? On my idiot.
I also don't think that Gianmarco is a cynic.
It's a defense.
Yes, exactly.
It's a total. It's a fear.
You love to label yourself
No.
this, and it's not you, because when you really get down to it, there's a lot of non-cynic.
He lies. He's lying.
No,
You're
I'm not
right.
lying.
Yeah.
The cynicism is it's an inability. It's to see the dark side of things. I feel like I'm fighting
It's
nihilism
easier.
every day of my life.
that's
Nihilism
different than
is an ocean
cynic
that's
is someone
lapping
who's
towards
given-
me and saying,
a cynic is
it's
given
coming.
over to it, and there's no sort of duality. It's like no,
Yeah,
like they know it. It's
You're
done.
right.
It's finished.
I forgot your first name.
Russell.
Russell. See, I've just met. We've met. I love them from afar, Russell and Gianmarco. So, first of all, cynicism thinks it knows. Cynics think they know things. Can I just finish? Sure.
Yeah.
God,
Jesus.
he's making.
Invite him on, and then you're like,
you
cut
invite
him
me
off.
on. Cynics, I believe, in my opinion, they think they know things, and I think, Gianmarco, that you can't know anything about another person's trauma, feelings, ironies, sincerities, paradoxes, good feelings, bad. You know, as she said to Jon Snow in the Game of Thrones, you know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing.
Cynics, if anything, idealists are the ones who claim to know things. If we're thinking in terms of a religious belief, they claim to know. The cynic goes, "You don't fucking know." That's all. That's
But
the
why do
cynic
you
I
have
am.
to
I
be
say,
either
"You
one
don't
of
know."
those things?
I don't know. No one knows.
Why do you have to be either one of those things? You're putting it into these two sort of
it's so
camps.
male. It's so male to only be able to count to two.
The first time I've ever been so male in my entire life, so
You're
I'll take it
too
as a
male.
compliment.
You're saying it's or mm. All I want to say about this work of art is that it is an extraordinary, because it's sold for so much money. That's when art now becomes known to the general public. So it is no wonder Mr. Gianmarco or whatever, Giancarlo.
Gianmarco.
Gianmarco. See, now the listeners hate me. No wonder that the public has become, unfortunately, they see the world, the art world, which is about communing with ancestors, about cosmic forces, about a space that I think is sacred and has been with us since the beginning, has caused everyone to look through the lens only of the money, which can't help but make you cynical. The banana is one of the most rare works of art because it's a terrible work of art that made you ask enormous questions. Let me name the questions before this guy keeps making faces. Here's the questions. Why would somebody pay money for this? Mm. These are found objects. Where is the idea of skill? Why is this art at all? How is where it is installed, that is, at an art fair, suddenly become very much part, even materially part of the work. And to unpack those questions, if you stopped the cynicism and got quiet inside, you would accidentally be able to answer some of the most vexing questions about a category we invented more than 100,000 years ago called art.
If this art was in complete access to the public and was not and again, I don't know the specifics, but I imagine that if you wanted to go see the banana in person, you're generally a fairly rich person.
Not at all. See, there's your cynicism.
Okay.
It's blocking you. Listen, it's at an art fair. People go for free. Some
Sure.
people pay money. There were hundreds of thousands of people there. They were an addition of several. To own it, if your bag and your fetish is about ownership, I'll tell you the truth. I found it such an interesting bad artwork that I made my own. I put a plastic banana on my fridge and taped it and signed his name, and it really helped me understand it. Look, NFTs just came along.
Yeah.
And everybody became cynical, me included, because of Beeple sold the first one for $39,000.
You know Beeple?
Fuck him. He made money. I didn't. As Americans, we must want money and hate anyone who makes it. That's our job. That's a good job. And I practice it all day long. Only men got into it for too long. Most of the NFTs are very boring graffiti-like art, and so I taught myself to make one. I sold one for $100,000, and I gave all the money away.
Well, that's very nice.
To Memorial Sloan Kettering, and to suicide prevention, and to a very small percentage, 10% to Asian hate crimes, especially at that time in 2019 or 20. Point being, by me taking the money out, as painful as that is for me not to have money, because I'm 3 times your age, and I'm still working. You do not want to be me, listeners. You want to be living someplace normal with a dog and children. I have no pets. I hate children. My wife and I are both art critics. We work all day, every day, because we want to. I gave the money away because I needed other people to see what I was doing.
And that's a beautiful thing. And certainly suicide prevention, they need it from all the people losing money on NFTs. I'm sure they're working overtime with all that going on. But when I see amounts of art going for that amount of money, the side of me that's feels anti-capitalist goes, look at this deformity that's grown off capitalism, that a banana is selling for 120. We've indulged. The art is, again, I don't think art is the source of it. I think artists, on the sides, and we see the disgusting core of capitalism grow into these horrible fruits of a banana taped to a wall selling for $120,000. So when I see those numbers, and when I see this recent ATM piece, I thought art is just the poison fruit of the capitalist tree.
But that's present in every aspect of American life, and also just the fact that you even know are asking him these questions, doesn't that highlight what he's saying in terms of, like, there's just so many things, works of art that none of us are talking about, so at least people hear about it.
So we're talking about the richest artists in the world. We're talking about the ones that are popular right now.
Here's what we're doing. We're doing what everybody does right now. There's herd journalism. There's herd comedians. There's herd critics, where collectors buy what other collectors have already bought because other collectors like them have bought them. Newscasters, I sit in these green rooms before important segments on CNN and Fox News, and I always ask, what are you going to say about, like, Trump or the recession or the depression? And they scroll their Twitter and they go, oh, this looks good. And I always say, but you're just repeating what somebody like you has already said. Why don't you just say what you really think? Okay, so what you're doing is 1% of what you're giving 99% of your attention to the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of all creative people who make money. And that's what TV does all day long. That's what politics is now. None of it is real. That's the game. I think it's fine that you know about Maurizio Catalan, the banana maker, or the latest scheme from the art fair, the ATM machine, which shows people's income. And I thought that was not a great work of art. It probably stinks. But I thought, would I have the nerve to put my card in? And I asked my wife, and she said, well, are you afraid you'd be too rich or too poor? What would you be afraid of? Or would you be proud to be poor? I'm the bigger victim than you. Wow. I'm poorer than you.
I think I would lean more towards that. I don't think it would be like, I'd be like embarrassed, but I think like I would rather that.
How about if I saw your parents' ATM card? You'd be embarrassed. How about if I saw your parents?
I'd be interested. I got to know what my dad's got because I'm very curious.
What does he make?
I don't know. He is a conundrum. My stepfather, though, I'm sure I would be. it would be embarrassing.
Everybody in the art world comes from the 6%, and everybody listening to this that now hates me, I know I lived in a squat, not a mile from where we're sitting, with drug dealer dogs that lived in the hallway.
Sorry, drug dealer dogs?
Dogs. Their dogs patrolled. This is during the crack era. And I was robbed so many times. The best robbery is when they came and they unscrewed the hinges of exactly that kind of New York door. And I found the door very carefully placed there. And I went to Avenue A. I lived on Avenue B and 4th Street, and went and bought some of my stuff back from the guy. I said, "That's mine. How much is it?" And he said, "Oh, it's $25. And I got it. Point being,
was there any acknowledgement of,
no.
Oh, that looks familiar? Or you walk in, he says, "Jerry, your place is beautiful."
I lived in a place about this size. Listeners were sitting in a tiny, tiny shithole, beautiful place on the Lower East Side near the what's it called, the Williamsburg Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge, and I love it here. And this is where some of the most creative life in the history of the United States has ever happened, in the neighborhood we're in. New genres of comedy, songwriting, cooking, making art happened right here in shitholes.
Yeah.
So we're talking about money, which brings us further and further or further away from the life of art, the inner life of art. And that's the game right now. Everybody thinks they know because they know what everybody else thinks. But the truth is, if you go to any museum and you get very quiet inside, really quiet, you start to hear things that you were sort of shocked to hear, good and bad. You find out you didn't like things you thought you liked, and vice versa. And again, I don't know. With criticism, here's what I would say. I don't know what fields you're in. I know you're in theater, you're in comedy, I'm in art. Nobody knows about anything outside their own field because I'm a loser and I'm very narrow that way. I should know who I'm speaking to, but because I'm on deadline every day of the year, I write 52 times a year for New York Magazine and probably thrice a day on my idiot Instagram, which has 500,000 followers and another half over on Twitter. Every day I get 500 new assholes torn from me. Every day I say something off or wrong or stupid or assholish. We're living in a time of no criticism. Everybody likes everything. Every TV show is good. Every comedy act is good. Every this is good. Every meal is good. It's disgusting to me. And I think being critical of art is a way of showing art respect. Now, there were 2 pandemics. I've talked about this. The first was COVID-19, when we went back into the caves and had to rely on our ancient selves of adapting in real time to nothing, to being able to we're making it out of ourselves again. The kitchen, the pharmacy, the bedroom, the studio, the office, the place where you take care of children and dying grandmothers, they became the same room. That's very ancient. You made stuff out of what was at hand. You should see this room we're in. It's just crappy furniture that they've got jerry-rigged, and it's one of my favorite studios I've ever been in. So then came the bigger pandemic that you took part in, because as an immunocompromised person living with somebody with cancer, I could not take part in the second pandemic, which was when you all went back out with the angel of death after George Floyd was killed. Now, what this forced was every single person in the creative field is liberal, so to speak. We've always talked the talk, but we never walked the walk. And so in my world, more women, artists of color, underrepresented, queer, disabled, etc., are taking the field, as are in your and your professions. Every person listening to this, then you have the secret thought. But this is letting in so much mediocrity. So much of it is shite. And we won't say it's shite. My answer to you is a couple of layers. One is yes, a lot of it is very, very mediocre, but it's no more mediocre than it has ever been. 85% of the art made in the Renaissance was crapola. We just never see it. It disappeared. 85% of the art that you see in museums, and that's pre-screened crapola, you think is crap. And that's supposedly the best of the best of the best. Same with Netflix. If you watch comic specials or you look at theater, you're thinking that's crap. Well, it's never been that much different. It's just more black. It's more female. It's more Ecuadorian. I'm an illegal Estonian immigrant. I am one sitting before you. I am an anchor baby, an actual example of a child born in America to illegal aliens from Estonia, whatever.
Yeah.
And no Estonian artist could get a negative review right now. And
What about from you?
From me?
Estonian, maybe.
I'll tell you what. The other day I wrote about these climate protests by splashing
Yes.
potatoes and mashed potatoes and oil on the glass of paintings. I posted a picture in Vienna of them throwing oil on the Gustav Klimt, and I just said thoughts. And an article was written on how I'm against addressing the climate. Just to raise it, you're now complicit. What I would say to you about it is let the pendulum swing this far for a while. The mediocrity will be on the field, but time always takes care of this faster than you think. And there's also a vacuum growing, and idiots like you are filling it with your idea of what's good. The system broke. It's obvious. The system is dead. It was cracked and broken for so long, but it was too fun to not fix it.
When you say the system, you mean art writ
every
large.
system.
Every system.
Politics, medicine, economics, religion, every fucking thing. Because it was easy to not fix it. It's easier to click like on your cool post about the Latinx people, or to yell at Jerry for not being gung-ho enough about the climate protests.
What did you think of that? Because
it makes me fucking sick to my stomach that one beauty would attack another, and that the subject of the protest doesn't become the climate, it becomes the act itself.
But by your point of the banana earlier, if it does get media attention, and for the first time people say the word climate change in the first time in a year.
Nobody's ever done that.
I think attention.
Okay.
Because it gets on the news. The guy who burned himself on the stairs of the court, there was no videos of that. Frankly, I'm sure that's what he would have wanted, would be a video of a man on fire to fucking get people to start talking. The video I did see was two people throwing tomato soup. What about you?
Everybody clicked like. We all got our panties in a twist. That's good. And we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Again. And I would say Nan Golden, who protested Oxycontin and the Sackler name, and there's a brand new film about her protest, was very focused. They did die-ins at museums with the Sackler name. And they actually, by addressing the problem directly, smaller problem, but addiction is not that small, they actually help change the problem. So I don't care. Let me just finish this for the listeners. If you want to throw shit at paintings and even slice them up, be my guest. Go ahead. You asked how I felt about it.
Yeah.
I would ask you not to do it, but if I understand...
makes sense.
I would say that no smeared piece of canvas is more important than the coastline of Norway. I mean, I'm not psychotic.
Yeah.
So I'm done with this diatribe. I talked for 30 minutes. Should I just leave?
No, it was wonderful.
You can edit this any way you want.
Yeah. It's just me talking for the whole time and you nodding.
Yeah, you have to talk now.
No, I'm only allowed to talk 30% of the time.
No, stop. But I feel like with the, like, for example, with the throwing on the painting, I think you have strong tear it all down tendencies. That's why
do,
we're friends.
I do sometimes.
Let's hear your argument to an older person.
Okay, but here's how I actually don't know how I feel about it because.
God.
Well, listen.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
Listen,
you do.
I don't know.
Will you let him finish and stop
Listen,
yelling?
I don't think I like it. Initially, I don't think I like it. But when you say that, oh, it's getting us talking about it, I then have the feeling of like nothing about the way I live my life has changed with her hearing about that or hearing about the man set himself on fire, which is deeply upsetting. Where nothing in my life have I done to change how I'm living or how I'm impacting our environment has changed with either of those examples, which are two very different things. And that makes me sad because you're like, one is a person setting himself on fire. And so I don't know what either one of those do.
But what about your feelings of, tear it all down?
Tear it all down.
That was what you were defined as.
There is a part of me that likes chaos in terms of things, but sometimes it doesn't. I don't. In this case, I don't love the. I see that and I'm like, that's kind of shitty. That's all I really think about it. You know.
I think that we're going to see the climate protests on top 10 lists of our hipsters like us. We'll put that on. I think those artists could get in the biennials and Documenta, get a grant. And again, more power to them. I'm fine with that. Listen, destruction is a force. It can be a creative force. We know that from the beginning of time. So that's not new. And maybe they can make it a creative force. They're now threatening to actually destroy paintings. And that's what the Taliban did with the Buddhas. We always destroy art. It's the first thing we do. And again, to use that percent, about 0.00001% of all the art ever made by our species still exists. All of it. Most of it was destroyed purposely. The first thing armies do is they, knock down statues, cross out heads, cut off faces. It's nothing new. The cave painters painted over everybody else's cave paintings, just like graffiti people. And like that.
Okay.
So I've ruined the podcast.
No. No, it's fine. It's good. It's good just to be able to.
Good.
You know, we had on Jason Zinoman. Do you know Jason Zinoman? He's the comedy critic at the New York Times.
Wow.
And it's. I feel like any critic I'm going to have on the show, we're going to disagree. But it's not a disagreement where, like Jason Zinoman, we fought. But I wasn't worried about Jason storming out.
What was his thing that so bothered you that made you all fight? I'm just, if you had to put it on a T-shirt, don't go on.
I think with my critique of contemporary comedy criticism it was like someone made a musical and there was no singing or music and people said, whoa, they've reinvented the musical. And I said, no, they wrote a play. And that was my general feeling about a lot of all the comedy lists are coming out right now.
And what's wrong with them by and large? Where's their bad taste on it? Not names, but what's the general thing they're doing that you think is off? I'd love to learn.
I think I have no problem with what they're doing. People can do whatever art they want.
Of course.
But I think critics who had been bestowed the tastemakers of stand-up comedy were being so enticed by the shiny different thing that they had abandoned the art form of stand-up comedy. Sure. And you could call anything stand-up comedy.
So
you could call someone singing on the train stand-up comedy if you want to.
Were there any women or comedians of color that just did stand-up on any of the lists?
Oh, for sure. There's some phenomenal. I think it was the same debate that people had with Nanette. I don't know if you followed the Nanette. It was I thought it was a phenomenal one-person show they put on Netflix. They bill it as stand-up because it's an easier category for people to digest. And a lot of people had a very strong reaction to Nanette. I thought Nanette was a good piece of art. Would you call
yourself a purist?
No, I don't think so.
So
because I started in theater, so I think I'm a little bit looser than the typical born and bred stand-up comedian.
So You're not trying to protect or define categories, is what you're saying.
No, I'm looking at I'm looking at the comedian who's a good stand-up comedian in the sense of the structure of jokes and turns and
Who's good?
Oh, I mean, it's
And you
a
can't
long list.
remember. As soon as I ask, I understand.
course.
But of the who emerged in the 21st century, I've probably never heard the name.
Right now.
Yeah.
I mean, just a comic I like.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Asmus is a comic I admire
Okay, I
very
don't
much.
know that name. Do
But
you know
of course
that
you
name?
wouldn't.
I don't know Jeffrey Asmus either.
But you don't know Nanette either, so I don't know if we're going to get anywhere.
Right.
in
Well,
this.
I'm old and I don't know how to work TV.
What stand-up comedians do you, if you were to name?
I only
I'd see
like-
them.
Well, I'm gonna name ones that I've actually I've seen. Leanne, like the Big Panty Tour. I saw Ilza, something like
Eliza
Eliza
Schlesinger.
Schlesinger.
Yeah, I like Whitney Cummings. I like. I don't know their names, unfortunately. See, he's giving me such an interesting look. Like, well, this is an older man who's eating. Basically, conservative TV of comedy. I understand. I probably am.
No. I mean,
I sit next to Jesse Fox, the great comedy critic at New York Magazine.
Yeah.
And he always tells me, yeah, you don't know comedy. You should come out to the Brooklyn clubs that he programs. And
then he tells you about the latest Banksy piece that he really loves, and you go, okay, well, you know.
Yeah, nobody knows anything. We're all... Anyway.
So I did want to talk about you. So where'd you grow up?
The suburbs of Chicago, Oak Park River Forest, where do you know who Frank Lloyd Wright was? The architect.
I am familiar with the name, but
He's an architect, an American architect. He built the Guggenheim, the
Okay.
Swirly Building, and one of the great American artists. And I grew up on the way to high school. I would pass 14 of his houses. So I grew up in chaos, complete chaos. My mother committed suicide when I was 10. They never told me, but that's not much different than your traumas. She was never mentioned again for as long as I lived. To this day, her name never came up again. There was no funeral, no cemetery, no zero.
do you have an impression of why?
I would guess this would have been in 1961. Keep in mind, I'm born in 51. That we were assimilationist Jews, also illegal. You would never know it meeting my father, ever. There's no accent. When he was alive, there was no accent. You would never know. He ran with his brothers a women's underwear factory, and they were just the suburban story, a nice suburban house, and one day she was gone. And I said, where did she go? And they said, she's with the Angels. And so I had to grow antenna, and I became a kind of feeling organism because everybody treated me different, the way they treated both of you different when people started to discover your odd secrets and odd, strange ways and your fucked up families and the stuff that you had to keep secret. No different. That's my normal, the same way your normal is yours. And yet when I hear it, when I hear your normal, I'd go, wow, that's rough. That's why I'm not a cynic. I just think people have no idea how we made it. We're all survivors. 99.9% of the people didn't end up in a beautiful shithole like this on a ratty couch. Instead of being a truck driver like I was or laying sheetrock, of being able to talk.
Did your mom take you to art? Your
Once. One time she brought me to the Art Institute of Chicago about a month before she died and left me there alone. Completely alone, and I just hated art, and I never seen it. I wanted to play baseball and play with the kids and go back to my suburb. And I've written about this, one painting caught my eye, a diptych, and I'm not going to get into the details. I've written about Giovanni da Paolo, 1516, a Renaissance artist, and I looked at these two panels and I realized it was a beheading of St. John the Baptist. And I looked at left and right and I thought, this painting is telling a story. This isn't just pretty stuff. And I looked around and the whole place went erotic, honestly. I mean, I thought, this is a story machine. Every single thing in this building, this machine, is telling me something about itself, its time, and all the other art it was ever in communion with. The same way all art comes from other art, okay? There's no such thing as a brand new work of art. Dolly Parton moves into the oldest, stupidest genre of all. Beautiful. Country and Western, same 3 chords, same time signature, and writes, "Jolene, Jolene, I could never compete with you. Please don't take him just because you can." And a door to the world opens that had never opened before. It's like reggae. Change the beat of rock from 2/4 to 1/3. That's stupid. That idiotic. That no one ever did it before. And you change the world. You change the beat. With Dolly Parton, she told the secret life of women. If both of you start giving your secret lives in your work and all these listeners, I promise you the world will crack open. It will fucking crack open because all of you are not saying what you're really, really thinking. You have to be radically vulnerable. Hear how stupid I sound. You have to be willing to risk that kind of flamboyant failure of losing it all every other time out. I don't like to risk. I never risk, but each time I always say I'm writing for the reader and I'm writing as hard as I can.
Before we get too inspirational on the downside, it's very moving.
Oh yeah, the downsides.
Yeah, the downside.
I love that title.
Do you mind me asking how your mom took her own life?
I only found out many, many years later she jumped from a hospital.
Oh my God!
See, to me, that's nothing. He said, "Oh my God."
Yeah,
What do you mean it's nothing?
What
I see
answer
it.
would he have given you that you'd have been like, "Oh, that makes sense"?
Pill? No, I'm saying.
good
What would you do?
question.
You think you're gonna? If you,
No, but wait, that's a good question.
Sure.
What manner would have... I never thought of this. You've helped me. What manner would have been like,
not like but like pills or the bathtub with the wrist. The idea for me, the jump, because
that would have been a
no. I've been skydiving, and it's just the emotion that you have to leap over, so to speak, to force your body. I think I could take pills, and the effects later. It's gradual. You can swallow those pills. You're not dying right away. Someone who jumps, there's something deep inside. I think
that's interesting.
That's like
I've never thought about it. But again, that happened. The jump happened 20 years after the jump. Like, it's very Proustian for me. I only find out that present 20 years later by accident from someone in my family. So that's the answer to the question. That's how she killed herself. But to me, she just disappeared. And my father then remarried 2 years later. A Polish working class woman brought in 2 brothers. I became a twin suddenly with a brother my own age who was a gangster. And the first night we were together, he tapped me in my bed and said, "We're sneaking out of the house." And we snuck out. He had tools, and we stole about 5 or 6 street signs in our suburb. And he brought one back, a little sign. And when we woke up in the morning, my father came in and said, "What's that under your bed?" He pointed to my stepbrother.
It's a big stop sign under the fucking bed.
And it was amazing. And I was really panicked as a suburban Jew. I thought, this is the end. I'm going to get, this isn't bad. And then I crossed to the other side of the law. My life changed just by watching an exchange. My stepbrother, Paul, just stared at him like in Narcos or something. Like, just like these guys that are ice cold and dead already on the inside. He just said, "What sign?" And I saw my father look at him, and none of this is interesting at a podcast. And my father looked at him in a way I'd never seen before. I knew the world was changing. That I'd seen something another behavior, a non-middle class Jewish, non-Jewish behavior that I'd never witnessed in my life. And I thought, that's for me. I'm going to be a gangster. I'm going to be a pirate. And so I started lighting leaf fires, breaking into schools. Nothing new.
I just love a Jew is going like, I'm going to be gangster.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't really do it well, but...
You ever steal anything big? What was your biggest crime?
thing, I probably stole $10,000 worth of books in my life.
Oh. All at once or spread out?
Well, every day I would go in with what was called a gym bag. I guess they're like backpacks now, to our Chicago bookstore. Then I worked in this very bookstore and put books out on the loading dock, and I would take them every day. And then, of course, when you break up with that girlfriend, you leave the 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 books there, and you go. You leave.
Yeah.
And you pine for the record albums. You pine for the sweater you left, but you never really remember it.
That's what happens in New York. I had someone.
What have you stolen?
Oh God, I'm not much. I'm a very.
What have you stolen?
I've stolen probably 3 to 5 candy bars.
Not bad.
Not bad. Nothing
What was the
like
most recent?
Oh, not in like 10 years.
What's the most recent time you've stolen? I've stolen this month.
You know
I've-
what?
I've
No,
stolen-
actually,
okay,
that's
I've
a
got
lie.
some-
I got drunk like 6 months ago, and I stole a little thing from Junior's. I was in Times
What's
Square.
a thing? What's a thing?
I bought bought the full meal. Blah blah blah. It's taking a long time. It was coming. I was on the way, and there was just like this little like muffin kind of like baked good there, and I just slipped in my pocket.
You took it.
I took it.
If you need any money, I got
It
you.
wasn't about that. I had already paid.
He was
I had
sick of
already
it.
done it.
I did it.
I had paid thing. It just was there, and it just was this feeling
I did
of
the
like
same thing.
I'm gonna just
I
take
just did it 2 or 3 weeks ago in some town. I was in lecturing, and I was sick of waiting in line. I had this already made sandwich in my hand, and I thought, well, I'm going to just go eat it.
yeah.
So I ate it, and then I walked past the register again to see if I was going to be spoken to, and I wasn't. I left. What was the last thing you stole?
Some roommate stuff. I
Yeah.
a tie that I borrowed 3 times, and then it was in my
That's nice.
closet, and then I moved out, and it just.
But
happened
did
to
you know
go.
you were going to steal it all along, or you like?
I really lied to myself gradually.
Good.
Just like
Yeah.
this is its new home for now.
Yeah.
He's
We all
forgotten
tell-
about it.
yeah.
He's never asked about it. He
Yeah.
doesn't need it anymore.
Everybody justifies to themselves what they do.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's on the psychotic level. The Trump voters really do believe now the election was stolen, even though they don't. They do.
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest thing, and we envy them. It's like I envy all religious people who are certain that they're going to, there's a heaven.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
Would you say atheist or agnostic?
Me, I don't know what I believe in nothing. I believe that all of this space-time is doomed. I believe, and that everything that we're seeing
And I'm
and
the
doing
same.
Speaking his language. Look at him.
is
He's getting all turned on now.
non-existent. That we're primitive organisms, and that perceiving about a billionth of a percent of what's really going on.
You see,
I was dead.
I'm more hopeful there. I think I'm more. Listen,
I don't feel hopeless. I feel like I was dead 15 billion years. I lived this little bit, 13 billion, and then I'll be part of the consciousness for 13 billion more after.
So you do believe the consciousness? You're a panpsychist?
No, I believe.
or a-
No, I just believe whatever energy doesn't die. We know that for 100%.
Sure, it doesn't mean that you know.
I don't know where it goes, but I know that there's such a thing as a burning bush. That is things that put off more energy than went into making them. I'll give you an example of it. A Jackson Pollock, a drip painting by Jackson Pollock. Or name your favorite painting. That's still putting off fucking, the Sistine Chapel is putting off energy
Chapel.
500 years later.
What's the best piece of art
Yeah.
you've seen? I'll say when I saw, I guess the statue, but the David. When I saw the David, it was the first piece of art that I said, "Oh, I get it. I get why this is like."
Why do you think what do you remember liking about it? Do you know the David?
Yeah.
He's a nude boy, 17 feet tall, one hand down, one hand holding a sling, okay? What did you
Boy, it
like
was
about
really-
then?
I
I'm
think it
going to
was-
ask you.
It's kind of a man.
What?
You call it a boy or a man?
How old is he?
Well, I'm nervous praising his nude body if he's too young. Let's say 18.
I think he's just 17, if you know what I mean. And the way he looks is way beyond compare. He's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's like Prince walking into a room. Instantly, you just go, whoa, or whoever from your generation. And what do you remember about the David liking?
He was attractive. It was something about it felt like it had captured a human being so realistically, and given how old it was, it felt like magical. That, you know, we try to take pictures now that are hyper realistic and all these things, but like someone like captured, it felt like it was alive.
Right.
But
And do you remember it at all in your mind's eye?
No.
Okay. So that we can't talk about it. It's never good to talk about a dream unless everybody had the same dream.
Yeah.
We're going to bore your listeners. But I'll tell you what that David is doing. David kills Goliath. They needed somebody to go into Tora Bora to kill Osama bin Laden. Nobody would do it. This naked child, Jew, shows up and he says, I could do this. I have a little sling that I use hitting goldfinches and stuff with rocks, and I'll go find him and I'll kill him. And you are seeing a sculpture that had never existed before on many, many levels, but what you're seeing is not the act itself. If you think about it, he's just standing there. It's not after the act because there's no head under his foot, which was the traditional way. It's thinking. He's pensive. He's thinking about what he's about to do. It's the birth of human consciousness, of thinking, of contemplating an action, of having thoughts, feelings, you know, about it. And that's a big deal. He's also 17 feet tall. He's got a teeny weeny. What does that tell us? We don't know.
He's still 17.
Yeah. Anyway, so, and it's marble that seems alive, and that's what you can get out of art.
What's your piece of art?
I don't have
And then we'll do pages.
I don't have a piece of art, but I have. So this is a strange answer, but if I'm going to be honest in terms
You better be.
of having an emotional response to something, the building across the street of where I live, and I've lived for 7 years, there is the way that the brick and the way the thing, it looks like an outline of a female figure in that thing, and it's something I can see from my window, I can see from my roof when I'm up there, and I feel like that is the most emotional sort of physical response that I've had to something. It's something that I seek out and look at. I get like a motherly sort of
Do you have
energy
an Instagram?
from. Say again?
Do you have an Instagram?
I do.
I think you should take pictures of it, post it from time to time. I really think
Do
this
it.
is
I have tons of pictures
it's a
of it
big
already on my
deal.
phone.
And I'm part of a race of straight males that finds it difficult to seduce women. That's just me. I don't have the
certainly
vibe.
just you in this room.
Well, it's me. I did nothing in high school. I only begged.
Yeah.
So for me, when you say that, that opens a really intriguing window that would be worth really going into. These displacements of finding, look, I experience rapture from form as a male, right? Every single boy or girl, especially girls, that walk past me on the street, I start to cry just a teeny bit from wanting, from needing, from wanting something. And art produces a little of that. It looks at you from across a room like that idiot shape or that weird sculpture of a naked boy, and it goes, I see you looking at me. Come here.
Whenever I see Mickey Mouse ears, I see tits. I just can't
Do
help it.
you?
It's in my head.
See,
I was hoping your piece of art was going to be
This
the
is
poster
why
for shelf
male
life.
comedians, it's not going to work. What could a male comedian honestly say about the
What are you talking about?
about that's revealing anymore?
Because I'm still a human being.
No. You're stuck with the XY chromosome. We're dead. We're doomed. No, everybody in this generation, I'm kidding. I have to say, I am. I'm not an essentialist. I was trying to joke with him.
We do want to do, so since
Okay,
our producer works at, what was the name of the art
yes.
gallery again? What was the name of it?
David's Werner?
David's
Yes.
Werner. So she
Yeah.
wanted to try one thing. We've never done a segment like this on the show before.
Okay, let's do it.
Russell's going to show me a piece of art. I've never seen it, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts of it.
So we have a picture. You've
seen it now. You
no,
showed
he hasn't. I haven't shown him yet.
Show it to me first.
Okay. And you've talked about this one. Paige sent us.
Thrilling podcast audio for all the listeners out there.
Yeah, you trim this out.
No, trimming is...
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to show you,
Okay.
and you can just offer, if you...
Yeah, I'm not going to be a dick about it.
Can I give him some advice before he answers?
Sure.
Sure.
Here's the first thing to do. You don't have to tell us if you like it or not. That's the key.
Okay.
You already know that. It's a bit like buying a sweater or wanting to kiss somebody. You have a sense already what you want. But that part doesn't matter to me. What I'm interested in only is what you see and how you see it.
Okay. And you'll put it up on the video for people so they can see it.
Take a look at it.
Right
Yeah.
here.
No. But you'll physically, just put it.
That's what.
Yeah.
Get quiet inside and just look around. Just look around. He's shaking
Drop
his head.
your,
No.
let it happen.
Listen,
Drop.
let me do it on my own. I understand.
Yeah.
I was an actor. I know.
He's right.
I've done all the things. Who am I speaking? I'm speaking to listeners. I see the way that pollution, I'm looking at cigarettes, I'm looking at toilet paper, and when I think of a child expressing themselves, they think animals and trees and the ocean, and it's very beautiful. There's an innocence to the way that they draw. There's the same way a really good child actor is suddenly captures something very human about them. It's because they don't necessarily have the eye outside being like, is this good? Does this accurately depict the turtle's fins? So there's this innocence about a child's drawing. And normally I don't think of a child as drawing about pollution. A child sees the world, sees the beauty stands out more. They're not thinking about the global warming or where is the ocean going or are turtles able to survive. But this picture shows pollution has become such a problem, so deeply integrated that even through the eyes of a child, the cigarettes and the toilet paper are just as much a part of the world. They've invaded the innocence of that world.
Something? That's one of the most beautiful reviews of the work of Catherine Bernhardt that I've heard. It is remarkable that you got to that level that quickly. Your listeners, I'm afraid, can't see this, but if you are watching it, yes, it looks very beautiful, exotic, like it come from the the South Pacific. But he saw, even then, through the childlike graffiti, schmeary, spray paint, junk thing, and you saw to a deeper content that many, many reviewers haven't. So I would say you're not a cynic.
Oh, God.
You're just fine.
See?
You're filled with love.
Sure.
You are.
Sure.
Cynicism was only the first filter. Like
Yeah.
you said. You said that, so I'm not disagreeing.
I know.
Do you want to
That's true.
show him a work of art?
No,
or
I don't.
okay.
I want. Let's keep. Oh, I have
No,
to.
no.
We have to.
Well, yeah. Let's.
We have two more quick.
I did want to say. Well, you're okay.
Yeah.
What was the downside you were starting to ask me?
I think I wanted to do the downside. I mean, about a long distance truck driving.
Oh.
I know it sucks, but like, was there any disastrous night? Did you get any bad accidents? Did you fall asleep?
Couple of things. I took the job thinking I'm going to sleep with a woman in every single hotel. That was my. And again, they're looking at me because they know I'm a quasi incel. But the second night in Jacksonville, there was a woman out on. I was looking at a 1,000-yard broken up parking lot made out of pavement with old trucks and weeds growing up, and it was the dark, and I was smoking cigarettes, and out on the balcony with me, 50 feet down, was a beautiful young woman. She looked at me for a long time and put a cigarette up to her mouth and said, "You want a date, honey?" And I looked at her and I went, "No, ma'am." And I ran back into my hotel room, fucking terrified. And I thought, it just happened. It just happened. So from now on, that's my life. And it never happened again.
Now, do you think she was looking for a date, or was she
It was
offering
a prostitute.
service?
It was a prostitute.
Yeah.
And the Lords must have been looking at me, and I must, whatever. And it never happened again. Nothing happened when I went to the Grand Canyon. Was the one time I left the route. I was programmed. I was a machine. I wanted to get there and get home. I think I was paid $100 a day, which seemed like a fuck of a lot of money. I didn't like working around people because if people looked at me while I was working, I'd get nervous and then I'd be pissy. Anyway, drove 50 miles, I think, north and east to the canyon off of that, Route 40 or something. And I parked the truck, checked into a motel room, and went to the Grand Canyon. And I really had an epiphany. I looked into the canyon and I thought, my pants are kind of tight. I didn't really like the room that much. There was this mildewy smell. I wonder if I'll be able to fall asleep there. The TV looked pretty shitty. I'm leaving. And it was at that moment that I understood that the sublime that had once been in the big buzz of it all, the big feeling of life that had been in the caves, in the fires, and then in Neolithic stones, and then in the Renaissance, moved up to the ceilings, and then in the Baroque went into churches and these great paintings, and then in the 19th century went into nature itself, and nature painting especially, that the sublime was no longer located in nature. For a minute in 1965, I think it was located in the Ford Mustang, which was the last thing that Americans made that Americans truly love to this day. Everybody would go, pretty good, the Ford Mustang, not a bad thing. I understood where the sublime went, and it changed my life. I understood that the sublime was in us, that I would rather be here with you two huge losers, speaking to a 71-year-old fucking geezer with hair growing out of his nose, than anything else in the whole world. And it changed my work a lot. And the only other bad thing that happened is I almost got in two pretty bad accidents. Once I remember falling asleep and a cop stopping me, being really sweet outside of D.C. going, "You were all over the road." And I said, "I did not know. I didn't know." And then another time down in Florida. So I knew I didn't like that job. I was very abusive to the art because I was resentful of everybody. You know, why not? Why don't? So then the truth is, anybody listening to this, if you want to get successful, you have to stay up late every single night with other people like you, other huge losers, artists, comedians, actors, whatever you do, you're teaching each other the new idiom. You're spreading the pheromones. You're arguing with each other, sleeping with each other, becoming worst enemies, breaking up, and then having breakfast together the next morning. These are beautiful lives. At the same time, you must work. You big fucking babies. You have to get to work. Nobody cares about your problems. When I dance naked in public every week in my work and every day on my Instagram, and if I worry about what other people think of me, I now know nobody's ever thinking of you. Mm-hmm. Ever. No one's ever thinking about you other than the wonderful feeling that you failed. That's a fun thing. Oh, thank God she failed. That leaves more room for me in that weird zero-sum psychology that artists have. So other than that temporary jolt, oh, good, they got a bad review. No one's thinking, I want you, as I said, to fail flamboyantly. I want you to make an enemy of envy today. Because envy only looks out. Take it from a former envious person. It only sees what other people have. And while cynicism kills you slowly, envy will start to kill your work. Because you're fucking up the feed. I tell you, you got eyes that only look out, and that's a problem. You better start looking in a little.
Was that a slow death or
Slow.
Getting rid of that for you?
Oh no.
Getting rid of the envy, like saying that you used to
when
have
it comes, my test was this: can I walk down the streets of New York? This was my envy. And mind you, it applied to everything, but I thought, if I cross that Rubicon, I've made it. Can I look? I used to look at every apartment and think, I should live there. I want to live there.
That is okay.
Or anybody on the streets while I was at my jobs thinking, how the fuck are they out at 11 in the day while I'm here in my truck? How did this happen? When that went away, when real estate envy went away, and what is everybody doing? And I gave it up.
What's for me?
What's
for me,
your
it's very,
envy?
Oh, it's it's watching a stand-up comedy show and other comedians.
And what do you
just
wish?
Destroying.
When they're great, you mean?
When they're great. When they there's I think mine immediately it almost goes through an immediate filter of I suck. Like that's my way of like I think dealing with the feeling. Of
Yeah,
envy.
we all
I go,
do
like,
that.
I suck,
yeah,
I suck. I
I'm not
fucking
this
suck.
good. I'm not this good. I
But
could never do this.
To really, the way I know is if I laughed. Is if I laughed at it. That's how I know.
Oh, yes.
That I had pierced through.
And you?
All of that.
And what's your envy problem?
I think it's honestly the real estate thing because I don't feel I don't feel that when I'm watching a performance or when I'm
you're very good.
when I'm no I have all those doubt stuff but I don't feel I don't feel that when I'm watching another thing. It is the superficial financial things. It's like knowing that I keep a creative life. I'm doing lots of things that I feel fulfilled.
He's in a famous play right now.
But it's the thing of why can't I do those things and then still have those things? That's where I get tripped up because I just was doing what you were saying yesterday as I walked from one place, a rehearsal thing, to the theater. I was walking by all these amazing places off 14th Street and being like, how come? Just thinking, how do these fucking people live here?
You'll never will have it
Never.
either.
Never.
No.
Never.
No, none of us
and
can.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. But it is that thing that I need to.
So when you put envy aside, it clears up a huge amount of internal space. The other thing I would tell you all is finish the damn thing. God, it's never going to be perfect. It's probably just barely going to be good. I put out a lot of mediocre work. I don't know it's mediocre when I'm doing it. I think I'm bulletproof. Nobody's ever written a review of this thing this good. And then later when I read it, I see the problems. And I have a couple of, the best is yet to come. Your next work is going to be better. The thing I have over my computer is I'm not going to fuck it up this time. Just remind myself. I'm trying, but you have to get it out of your studio, your office, your computer. You'll never be done with it. It will never be perfect. Finish the fucking thing, you baby. I promise you, unless you were like, even Beethoven could sometimes write a symphony in days. Okay? If Mozart dies at 32 and he wrote 106 pieces of music, you got to get your act together and start writing. And he had to work from his stuff too. He would check in at people's house, write a sonata for them, and leave it on the cadenza and hope that they paid him. No, I'm sorry, you're not going to be rich. Anybody listening to this, you're not, unless I recommend marry well, There's nothing wrong. I want you to be a sociopath about your own work. Have a fake marriage that somebody can support you. You're not going to win the lottery. And if your parents don't die soon, I'm sorry. If they don't have money, then you're never going to get anything from them. And by the way, everybody younger than me, please stop dealing with your parents so much. I want you to only speak to them a maximum of twice a month.
Sending this to Chris right away, my friend Chris.
I mean, twice a month is a lot, in my opinion, but I'll give you twice a month. But never, how often do you speak to your parents if you have parents?
Dad, definitely, that twice a month range at the most.
Okay.
Mom, probably once a week, and she's
Okay.
driving the car.
Dad
Okay.
probably twice a month. Mom probably twice a week.
Okay, that's why
But they're quick. They're quick.
Okay, because all of you listening to this, basically you're lying to your parents during the entire call. You're pretending that you're not high, that you're not boinking people, that you're not being drunk or alcoholic. You're lying to half of it, and then it's just, you cannot have your own nervous breakdown to become a great creative person if you're cathected on your parents, because it's a fake friend. It's like a friend on the payroll, because who could not love you? Who could not love you of their own child? I would say not to break up with your parents so much as go through this alone. It's hard, but I promise you'll get through it. Every person between the age of 25 and 34 must have the inner hologram of their life that was built before they were 24 collapse. It must collapse because it was a child's construction to keep a world going so it wouldn't explode and die. And you had to create a facade, this hologram. Let the hull fall. If you get insomnia, for example, know this from Daddy Jerry. You will never die from a lack of sleep, and you will never go insane. If you need to be awake for about a year or two with only 1 or 2 hours of sleep, that's a good thing. That happened to me. I realized one day, I'm supposed to be awake with the heebie-jeebies jumping out of my skin because I don't know yet what I am. I'm still being born a second time, not with religion. So I want all of you, don't cathect on your parents or people on the payroll, so to speak. And don't be afraid when the thing starts to collapse. That's you telling yourself a new thing is trying to get out, the thing that you're going to be till you're my age.
Well, my mom listens to the podcast, so if you're listening,
Mom,
don't
don't
fucking call
bug
me for a
him.
month.
Stop calling
Really,
him.
stop calling him. You know you need him and that you're insecure without him and you think he can't deal with anything. He's a jerk. He is a little loud, I have to say. Could you deal with him on that?
And your headphones aren't even in. That's how loud I am.
No, I put my headphones on. He terrified me. So, yes. Do you
let's-
need to end the podcast?
We have two
It's-
final quick
okay.
little segments. One is called This Has Gotta Stop.
This has got to stop.
This has gotta stop. What's gotta stop, Jerry?
I'll tell you the thing that has to go. Hudson Yards. It's this enormous corporate city built on the west side of New York between, God damn it, like 40th Street now and all the way down to 15th Street, or no, 20-something Street, of these awful corporate buildings that are now all empty. And you can never afford to live there, and it was a terrible mistake to build them.
Is this
That
where
should stop.
I think like I've done like the Law and Order SVU auditions are at one of these things.
Probably.
Hudson
Yes.
Yards. There's
Yeah.
like big warehouse like
There's
spaces.
like a Chelsea Studios. There's like a
Yeah,
they
and for
film stuff
auditions,
there.
I mean, it's been a while. I
What
would love to
also,
audition, but it's
what
a long
also
walk.
has to stop is all of our journalists have to do this. They're all lazy. They all are told things from Republicans off the record and on background. They all know the secrets of these Republicans that don't believe in that the election was stolen. They know it was all a lie. They know they're shits. And yet none of these reporters, and I talk to them all, I say, why don't you all at the same time reveal all of your sources, the tapes, the notes, everything on the same hour of the same day, so no one is at a disadvantage from that moment. You take MSNBC, CNN, and a network site. That's simple, an NPR. They all have it, and they all go, well, we can't. And I finally figured out why. They're lazy. They don't want to lose their access to power. They're afraid of losing sources, connections. They won't be invited to the parties. This has to stop. What's more important, your country or you're a vaguely telegenic person? You went to a Midwestern school. I went to no school, so I'm not putting down Midwestern schools. I'm a Midwesterner. You ended up, say, in a network. You have to work for your country the same way critics have to stop holding back. If you don't like something, say what you don't like. A critic's job is to notice things and say what they notice. And if you don't like a woman's work or an artist of color, you have to be able to say how that came about and why, as opposed to being too terrified to say, I did not like her work, because you're going to be called a sexist no matter what. That's a given. So this kind of herd thinking that America's involved with needs to stop. And each one of you could stop it today.
Just to
today.
make it clear, you're saying no to get rid of the concept almost of off the record.
Well, I would say, yeah. When the country's, you know what? When the country's in stake, you know what I would do? Senator Lindsey Graham today on Background, here's the little tape he made, said, I believe it was all a lie, but I'm afraid of my voters. Now, I would do that knowing he would never speak to me again, and maybe no Republican would. But if I could get him on tape, and they all have it, I know all of these reporters, everyone, and they all have it. Oh, it's our integrity, Jerry. And I said, no, that's a made-up rule you made to protect yourself, not them. Yeah. You're protecting your job. You're not protecting your country. It's just like not turning off the air conditioner this summer. I didn't turn mine off. You didn't either. No. You didn't either. We had the option. We could have, but we didn't. And these decisions are made all the way down the line, unfortunately, all the way to losing the American experiment, which saved my family and probably everybody listening to this that made America the great hope. My people would never have survived without this country. Ever.
We do have 3 listeners in China, though, so they might not be able to relate.
We love you, China, too. Everybody is under the same
China.
thumb.
You're the best.
Everybody's under the same thumb of their authoritarian governments telling us we can't do anything, so we only yell at each other. You're more woke than he is. I'm more woke than you are. You can point your finger at me. I didn't say the right word. It's much easier to do that than simply play the tape of Lindsey Graham. Much easier.
Yeah.
So this has to stop. And
we have him on next week, so we'll try to nail it down. Listen, I'll break the code of ethics of journalism any second. Our final segment.
You better count your blessing.
You better count your blessing. We end with one positive thing. Russell, do you have a blessing you want to share?
Small. I have a new foot massager, and it brings me unexpected amounts of joy. In terms of doing the show, and I forget what it's called, but I have like a knot on the bottom of my foot that I've never had before, and this
plantar's
really,
wart.
Yes, plantar flesh.
You have that. There's a simple operation. It'll cause some pain for a few days after, and it's over for life.
Yeah, okay, I've never had it before. But
go, you big baby, go.
I know. Yeah,
you big baby.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you have that. That's an ever-present pain.
It's been much better since doing the massage, and I looked up a few sort of things, and it's like gone away a lot.
I'm sorry,
but yeah,
he's doing this theater show now. It's a new physical
and you're on your feet for hours.
Well, it's all the set is all stairs, and it's like
Congratulations on your theater. I'm
Thank
grateful for you performing naked in front of people.
Yeah,
having an audience. We need attention, unfortunately, because our parents fucked us up. Mom, you fucked them both up. They need attention.
My mom fucked you
and
up.
So do I. And I love that you're getting attention right now.
Thank you.
My blessing is I recorded this clean album. I think I was feeling there's just a feeling of like I don't want to do this album where it's clean for the radio, but the whole team kind of showed up. Jessica Moses from Blonde Medicine, Paige was there. Paige Asachica, our producer, and then David from Sesh Comedy Club, David Hogsett, fantastic club, and couldn't be happier with that to be done.
And that sounds great to me, too, because we can't just play to our own audiences all the time.
Yeah.
And to do a quote, whatever a clean album is, I think I understand that, is a great practice. I have to learn to be able to write about what abstract expressionism is for both of you every week in my articles and do it simple without taking up all my space. And I think it's a great skill to know how to play to big rooms.
I agree.
Yeah.
Where can people find you that want to find you?
I'm grateful. About 75% of every single day, I have to tell all your listeners that I spend most of my day thinking, God, am I lucky? I almost didn't make it. I really came close, and I made it somehow, some way, with nothing. So I'm grateful for that. And you can find me in New York Magazine, and do follow my idiot Instagram at Jerry Saltz. My Twitter game is not as strong, but I put a lot of great art up on my Instagram. We have huge conversations about it all night, every day, and we'll have good arguments. It'll be good.
Speaking of weak Twitter presence, Russell, where can people find you?
Russell J. Daniels on Instagram. And then I don't think I have anything else to plug. Come see Titanic at the Daryl Roth Theater.
Congrats.
Yes, and this is coming out December 20th. Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm here for Christmas, but you can see me in Jacksonville, Florida, December 28th. Oh, no, December 29th, December 30th, and New Year's.
Wow, your lives are so much better than mine. I was sitting here thinking I was speaking to losers. I'm the loser.
No.
That's what happens in all conversations. If you think the joke's on them, it's on you. It was on me.
This is The Downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside. You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.